I've lived on the same block for a little over a year now. My wife and I are usually working, and when we aren't, we're usually doing something with our kids. On top of that, I've been promoted a few times and am working on another, so we never stay in one spot for a long time. As a result, like many people these days, we have never really come to know most of our neighbors. Sure, we've seen them, even waved to them a few times, but I couldn't tell you most of their names. Our block has an alley that runs through the center, along the backside of our property. To save having to make a trip all the way around the block, the garbage trucks go through the alley, since all the houses on the block back up to it. The other night, around 10 o'clock, I was taking our trash out to get picked up when I saw one of my neighbors coming out to the alley to do the same. He has the house that backs up to mine, and I had seen him coming out and going in a few times, but had never even said hello. I decided to try talking to him, seeing what he was like, maybe even invite him over sometime. As we get to the alley, I introduce myself, say I'm sorry for never bothering to do so in the last year. He tells me his name is Ren Deal. I've never heard of anyone named Ren, aside from Kevin Bacon's character in Footloose. But I don't say that because I'm sure he's heard it before. We talk for a little longer, but then suddenly I feel like something is watching us. I stop paying attention and look down the alley. There's a spot halfway down the alley where one of my other neighbors has a tree that hangs over their fence that blocks the light from the street lamp, and it's pitch black there. But I could feel something there watching us. I looked back at Ren, who I realized had stopped talking. He was watching the shadowy spot as well. I looked back, and out of the shadows, I could make out a pair of eyes, too far off the ground to be just a cat or dog, not to mention the fact that they were glowing red. I stood there, frozen in place. I felt like I should run back into my house and lock the door, but I couldn't make myself move. Whatever was in the shadows began to growl, a low, gravelly sound. And then it took a step forward. A huge clawed foot emerged from the darkness, and the end of a bloody snout made its way into the light. I could make out a few fangs that looked as long as my finger, and I judged that based on the height of the snout, this thing was at least as big as a bear. The problem is that I don't live in an area with a lot of bears, and I've never heard a bear make a sound like that or have glowing red eyes. Another clawed foot stepped down, and the thing's head came into the light. It was hairless, had black skin and a mouth full of bloody fangs, but it looked like whatever it had eaten hadn't filled it up. I wanted to run, I wanted to scream, but I couldn't make myself do anything. The thing started to take another step, and then Ren took a step past me to face the thing. Don't you know who the fuck I am?" he asked angrily. As I stood behind him, I noticed that suddenly he seemed larger than he had before. The thing suddenly stopped growling. Its mouth closed for a second. It started to snarl again, but then Ren took another step forward, and the thing lowered its head and whimpered before it turned back into the shadow and disappeared. Ren turned back to me. I blinked, and he was back to the size he had been before. He gave me a smile and said, "Let's get drinks sometime." Then he turned and walked back into his house. I stood in the alley for a minute before I realized that at some point I had pissed myself. I'm not sure if I should be more afraid of the thing that tried to attack us or the neighbor that stopped it.